Hey, Cougar family. Welcome to Season 1 of the CougsFirst podcast, your one-stop business network, a podcast all about life, business, and the best college in the world, Washington State University. Join us each episode to hear stories from your favorite Cougs, interviewed by yours truly, Kelsey Knutson, class of 2012. We're so glad you're here, and we can't wait to dive into this week's conversation. So grab a cup of coffee, crack open that beer, or pour a glass of wine, and let's kick off another episode of the CougsFirst podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today is going to be a fun episode because I am joined by Duane Brelsford. If you don't know, do a quick Google and you'll see that his name and company and family is really deeply connected to WSU. Pullman, born and raised, left and returned is how I would say it. He is very excited to give back to WSU in time, treasure, and talent. His name is everywhere, but ultimately he has so many stories before we hit record that he's already shared with me, and I can't wait to have just a good old Coug conversation. So Duane, could you start by telling people today what do you do, and then we'll have some fun from there, okay? You go ahead.
Great. Well, today is the give back time, or time, like you said, time, treasure, talent. Giving back to WSU is a high priority for me and my wife and our family, and we've enjoyed it tremendously. We've given in a number of different areas, and so planted our name on a few buildings. Like I'd mentioned earlier, that my dad didn't want his name on anything, and now that the Brelsford name is disappearing I'm the last male with that name out there. So even a daughter, my last daughter is not married yet. So she said that she's going to hyphenate the name and keep Brelsford around. But so I've been kind of plastering the name around town. We've been in that town for over 100 years, our name. And so I'm trying to just plant our name around a few places so our family's remembered when I'm gone.
That's very cool. And one of those places is the Visitor Center. I just want to quickly touch on it because I know it moved locations. I know the symbolism of it being kind of between downtown Pullman and at the end of WSU is important. So could you are there any gaps in that story you want to share?
No, absolutely. The Brelsford WSU Visitor Center was located in a piece of property that I owned, and I gave back to WSU, I gave to WSU. And what we did is I was building a number of buildings downtown Pullman, the foundation building where Taco Del Mar was, and you were working right across the Pine Street Plaza at Thomas Hammer. Yep. And so we were trying to redevelop downtown, reestablish downtown, make it a quaint, fun place to go. And in doing so, I was also working with WSU. And WSU and downtown sometimes the city didn't see eye to eye back then. And it was kind of frustrating for me because I love WSU. I love Pullman, but I saw that a lot of the administrators and a lot of the city officials didn't see eye to eye. So I continually tried to, when I built the foundation building, I went to WSU and say, is there any department? Is there anything in that area, in the area of WSU that they would come lease from the private sector? WSU had not leased from any private sector. They built their own product. They stayed in their own buildings up on campus. And a guy named Greg Royer reached out and said, let's do that. Let's do the olive branch to the Pullman. We'll put the foundation down there where we can put all the people together in one building. So I built the building. It's a 3-story building. Foundation rented it. And we moved, we kept progressing with the connecting WSU and downtown. And this property was kind of the midpoint between WSU and kind of the access to campus as you cross the bridge there. And so I had kind of put myself in a position where I was kind of the liaison between WSU and campus, constantly pulling them together in any way, form I can. And this piece of property was a perfect location to bring WSU down and make that their opening gate, their visitor center, their place where you would see that first before you get up on campus. But it's really downtown level. And so it gave me the opportunity to say, let me gift this. Let's develop something there that will both embrace the community and embrace WSU. And that's how the visitor center came about and how it was located where it is.
Very cool. I love that story. But more in the story department, I want to hear your story, which is you're born in Pullman. Obviously, there's heavy influence to stay there, but at the end of the day, you have a choice to go to WSU. So how did you end up staying there, coming back? What's your kind of tie to WSU and your personal journey?
When you're raised in Pullman, you really don't have a choice.
I'm trying to be respectful.
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't have a choice. Not that I had, not that I had someone pressuring me to go there, it's just you don't think of any other place than WSU. Now, a lot of people from Pullman, it's crazy, Pullman High School, right? John Elway went to high school with me in Pullman High School his freshman year. I had people that went to Harvard out of my graduating class. I had more doctors and attorneys and heart surgeons and all these people out of my graduating class in Pullman. And people go, well, Pullman, what? Well, you've got all the professors' kids there, the smart kids. And then you've got the farmers. So we had a big gap in there of the dynamics of the high school. And so it was a great place to be raised, very academically oriented. I actually was born in Clarkston, Washington, and came to Pullman 3 days later. My mother had had a car accident, and her doctor was still in Clarkston. We had already moved to Pullman. So she went down there to have me and brought me back up a day or two later. So, but basically raised in Pullman, and went to Washington State University, loved it. I think it was the best 5-6 years of my college career for a 4-year degree. But it was 1980. The interest rates were 21%, and it's still really fun. I said, I'm not going out in the real world. This is too tough out there. But then went to LA. I did this crazy thing. I jumped off the fraternity and did a backflip, and it crossed the nation in the newspapers, front pages of New York Times, Chicago Tribune, San Francisco Chronicle, LA Times. My mom saw it when she was down in San Diego at the time, when she was down there at a conference, and called up, and I got scolded a little bit. Seattle Times, and it was just a great picture. The guy who took it won 3 national awards, and so I thought it was a stuntman. So I went to LA to be a stuntman. So I went to a stunt school down there and got to do a few things. I wasn't on film anywhere. I lasted about 9 months and thought, I'm not making really any money yet, and I didn't really want to do the time. So I went back into real estate development, and I real quick joined a company that was called Granada Royale Hotels. They build these extended stay, meaning they had a kitchenette in them. And this guy we built a number of them down there. He sold to a company that created a subsidiary, and they called them Embassy Suites. And that's how Embassy started. And I crawled up the coast to Seattle, built a couple in Portland, a couple in Seattle, and one in Burlingame. And so that got me back to Seattle over the years. Got married in LA. My wife is from Moscow. We had 2 daughters that were born in Mission Viejo. And so we went up to Seattle and then ultimately moved to Pullman in 98. One daughter went to WSU. One went to University of Idaho to get a couple degrees. One works for Nike, and the other works for a place called Yellowstone Club over in Montana. So very happy to be here. And they are so happy to have been raised in the Pullman academically oriented type community.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think has been the most impactful part of your college experience at WSU?
I mentioned to you that I was a cheerleader one year. And then the next year I walked on the football team. I was able to participate on the team with a gentleman named Jack Thompson. And I was mentioning in basketball games, we're talking about impactful times. The basketball games, when you're cheerleading, it was packed because George Raveling was there, and you had to wait. You would go out there 2 or 3 days ahead of time, and this huge line of 300-400 people would be packed around the Coliseum. And then they would open the doors, and you'd cram in there. And there's actually a couple hundred people they wouldn't let in because it was full. I mean, we filled that 10,000 whatever stadium almost every home game. And so being a cheerleader down in the court, never worry about it. But I did the next year, I waited in that line one time over 3 days and traded with my roommates to go to classes and take a shower and to go, freeze at night, overnight up there at the Coliseum and outside. And so I said, this is BS. I went down to what called the corner drugstore, and I rented a wheelchair for $1. And I took it up there, opened it up, and I sat in it, put a little blanket on my knees, and I rolled up to the ticket place 5 minutes before an 8 o'clock game. I'm there at 7:55. Showed them the ticket. Place is full. 200-300 people are outside the Coliseum, can't get in. And I rolled into the wheelchair section. There's only one other person there. I wasn't taking anybody's spot. But it was so easy and so comfortable that I watched the whole season from the wheelchair section. It was perfect. I mean, they were great seats. You had to be sensitive. My dad was in a wheelchair, so I was very sensitive to and not trying to take advantage of it really, but it was a great way to watch the games. Fortunately or unfortunately, one of my roommates in college at the Beta Theta Pi House wrote an article in the Evergreen about Duane, Ironside, Brelsford, and the whole article about that thing. And some people thought it was really funny, and some people didn't. So that was a short-lived handicap career.
CougsFirst is your one-stop business network. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Buying a new car? Think CougsFirst. Hiring a Coug? Think CougsFirst. Need a mentor? You guessed it. Think CougsFirst. What makes WSU great is Cougs supporting Cougs, and they are in every business. And we'll take your call. Google it at CougsFirst.org. And as always, go Cougs. There's a lot to unpack there, but I want to start with your family. You also mentioned earlier that your family's been in Pullman, 100 years?
Yeah, my grandfather got in there in the late 20s. And about 100 years, our family's been in Pullman. Yeah.
What were they doing?
My grandfather came in. My grandmother was a cook, I think at Dunkin' Dunn or something. She was a cook up there. And my grandfather was a plasterer. And so he worked up facilities at WSU and was a plasterer. Dad was born in Pullman, and he lived there his entire life, and as a real estate developer. And that's what I do now. Is we've gone back to WSU and gone back to the community of Pullman and built a number of commercial buildings, retail, office, and like I said, we have about 4,500 beds in Pullman apartments. A company called Gabco, and so we're playing a big part of the commercial market and business market in Pullman as well now.
So growing up, did you ever think you would do what your dad did?
Oh, no. No one wants to do what their dad does. No, I was going to be a stuntman, or I was going to go down to Hollywood, or there was some other bigger star out there for me. And, but as time went on, I realized that certainly raising two daughters in an academically oriented community like Pullman, we made the best choice in raising them there. And of course, Pullman's been great to us. And WSU's just been a shining star in our lives. That's our gifting side, giving back to WSU, both time, treasure, and talent, and also participating in WSU and the city in boards. I've been a part of the foundation board at WSU. Did I already say this? I don't.
No, we're flying by.
I've been on the foundation board for 10 plus years. I'm on the current finance committee, but I was a board chair for 2 years. I'm president of the foundation. I've been on a number of boards at WSU, a number of committees. I was on the search committee for Kurt Schultz, and so that was a great experience. So we've really enjoyed it. We've recently received the highest honor from the WSU Foundation, which is the Hoot B. Gibson Award, and he's the one who founded the WSU Foundation in 1979. So my wife and I were honored with that award. We're very honored to be a part of that and part of the foundation, and certainly with WSU.
Totally. What do you think? I mean, I think we're kind of preaching to the choir here, but what do you think makes WSU so unique and different than other colleges?
WSU, I have found after visiting all the Pac-12 and a number of other colleges, is if you're going to go on a date, and you're in Seattle, or you're in Phoenix at ASU, or you're in LA with USC, UCLA, or even in San Francisco with Cal or Stanford, when you go on a date, you go out downtown. You go take your date and you go to a movie or a show or a professional baseball game, or which are great things. But during that 4-year period, which is so dynamic in a young person's life, to be able to sit there and you have to make it happen on WSU. You're on the rock. You can't leave the rock. When you date on campus. You make your own fun. You make your own parties, and you get to know people so much better through all the context, from your curriculum to your extracurriculum to your fraternity or sororities or your dorms to the different parties you go to. You visit and be able to communicate and embrace and kumbaya all of these people. And I noticed when I moved to LA, there was 2 or 3 people that I ran into in downtown LA on the streets. And I really didn't know their names, but I looked at them and go, yo, go Cougs, because I'd seen them somewhere. Now, if I'd been at another campus, I probably would have never seen them before. But on WSU, you're there. It's a tight community. It's a wonderful experience. And you're forced to make your own things happen there. And I talk about when I got married, instead of staying home where mom and dad or her parents are at, we lived in LA where you didn't have quick access to your folks. You couldn't, if you had a problem, go see mom and dad or go see this, go see that. You had to make it happen. We were on the island. We learned and grew together and learned to appreciate and support each other. and respect each other. And that's what I think WSU provides. It's that marriage of everybody there that provides, respects, and you deal with all the issues of life all together. And I love that about a small community in a small college town.
Yeah. It's kind of like the perfect environment for all those different things to happen, just the location it's rural, it's a choice, but there's just a deep connection with WSU and it never goes away. Regardless of when you were there. I mean, you and I were bonding before we even hit record talking about all the WSU stuff. And I think that's what makes this really cool.
Yeah, so many, and we started talking about the same people we know. You graduated in 2008, you graduated? No, you entered college.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter graduated in 2008, but we started talking about some of the same people. You knew them. You didn't go, oh yeah, I remember him. I remember her. Yeah. And that's what I love about WSU. And I tell you what, the Go Coug thing, we live in Cabo San Lucas 6 months of the year. And I even see people down there, if you have a hat or a shirt, and I'm hearing across the airport, Go Cougs. I just love that. It just makes me feel home wherever I am.
Yeah, that's the perfect way of describing it. So Cabo San Lucas, your business and all the different things that you've done, how did you learn how to run a business? I mean, is that something you learned from your dad? Maybe some nuggets or takeaways you've learned in your journey?
Well, I do give a lot of credit to WSU because there's a number of courses that I took at WSU that I still use today. And I refer back to those courses, whether it be my mind or talking to employees. I refer back to things that I was taught in those courses. Any college or any course cannot teach you the life experiences you receive in business. So that was, I went through the school of hard knocks and worked for other people, made them a lot of money and thought, well, I'm going to go, if I can do it for them, I can do it for me. Well, it wasn't quite that easy. So I you have struggles as you create your own businesses, but, I learn as you go forward. Biggest thing is to respect everybody and just make sure you're fair in all your dealings, and people will respect you, and you'll have them come back and want to do business with you again. And so we've always had that philosophy and that mission in Pullman to embrace all the businesses in Pullman. And what we do is everything from what we recently put in Pullman, from the Starbucks to the Chipotle's to the car wash to Pullman Building Supplies to all the stuff downtown, the jeweler, Sam Dial, to where we used to have Taco Del Mar. We own Adams Mall and all the activities there. We own the theater in Pullman. We owned a restaurant there. So what I was trying to do is constantly give Pullman and provide Pullman with all these little niches that it didn't have, that people or certainly students came to Pullman and they didn't have those opportunities they would have in a bigger city. And what could we provide those students that they're used to in larger communities? And so that's what we've been trying to do for the last 20 years, is bring Pullman out of the 16th century, 17th, 18th, 19th century, whatever it is, and provide products and provide retail and provide the students with shoppings and entertainment that they typically are used to in their own communities. So that's been our big throw. And of course, continually building apartments. We have a 528 unit going right across from the new Marriott hotels. It's got 36,000 feet of commercial, 528 units, which is putting about 1,200 more beds into Pullman. So we're really excited about that. And we're gonna keep going. Although my wife's trying to get me to retire, I tell her I've got the retired part now, and I'm working on but yeah, she's trying to drag me out of it. Say, I'm getting too old to keep pushing like this. And I mentioned to you, my grandson telling me, he asked if there were history courses yet when I was going to school. So what? I know I'm old, but that, God, a 9-year-old asking me if there were history courses when I was younger. Yeah, so that made me feel old.
Yeah, hey, that'll do it. What makes WSU great? Cougs support Cougs, and they are in every business and want to give you a good deal. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Selling your house? Think CougsFirst. Need to plan a party? Pick a venue or set your menu? Think CougsFirst. Did we make our point? Start to Google it at CougsFirst.org. And as always, go Cougs! So in all those different properties that you've had your hands on, been a part of, what do you think makes a business successful in a place like Pullman? Like, what's that magic formula?
most markets in Pullman are very thin, meaning you can't put 20 grocery stores. You can't put 20 theaters. You can't put 2,000 restaurants or whatever. You just can't. It's a thin market. So you got to find out what's going to be successful. You've got to do your due diligence, do your market study analysis, and you've got to find out not what you think the market wants, find out what the market wants. Go to the students. What do you need in an apartment? One thing that, and we talk about how we do this deep analysis on trying to provide WSU and the city of Pullman with product that they want, that they need, and not just trying to stick a square peg in a round hole and say, no, you need this. This is what you're going to get. We did an interview with a bunch of students in the DABCO and received back, and my daughters both went to college. One went to WSU, one went to U of I. And well, we found out we're starting to build these community centers in the apartments where you have a rec center, you got a workout area, you got this, you got that. And we got from these young ladies saying, we love to work out. We work out all the time, but we don't like the rec center because we got to glam up to go there. I didn't know what glam up was. I had to have them explain that to me, but we have to glam up when we go there. I want to just throw my hair in a ponytail. I want to go in sweats. I don't want to put on makeup. I want to work out. I want to run back and take a shower. Then I'll glam up and head to class. And so they, even in the apartments, having those facilities where all the guys are going to be there too. So they said, if there was a kind of a little workout, a little cardio place around the projects, have 3 or 4 of them around the projects, that they would go to the one closest to them. And it started making a lot of sense. So I asked my daughters about that. They said, absolutely. Mm-hmm. They want to go and do that workout, but you've got to understand the dynamics of young men and women and what they want to, what makes them feel comfortable. And so getting feedback from students about what the amenities they need in apartments, as well as getting feedback from the community of what they need. And I got feedback, need a car wash. We'd love another Starbucks on that side of town. What about a Chipotle or a Chick-fil-A? What about, so these are then I go to the ICSC down in, which is International Conference and Shopping Centers down in Vegas, and I start catering to these different companies. The people in Pullman ask if you guys would be available. I'll build the building, I'll lease it back, whatever we got to do. I'd love you to come participate in our community. So that's what we've done for years, is trying to build the community and provide product and businesses that would both accommodate WSU and the city of Pullman.
Totally. And I mean, you said it, it's relationships and understanding your market. So I know this is not a business podcast. Not everyone will appreciate that little nugget, but for those business people listening, I feel like I had to tap in on the expert here.
Been there a long time.
So let's talk a little bit about recent grads entering the workforce. Maybe do you have any advice you would give from your perspective on things they could do to leverage their careers, or if they want to go off and maybe do their own thing?
Be an absolute sponge. Go out and work for someone else for a short period of time. I don't know if that's 1 hour or 1 decade, but go work for someone else. Learn the business that you're interested in. Learn that business and be a sponge. Learn everything you can. Don't just go there and get a paycheck. Mm-hmm. Learn the business, because ultimately you're going to be next up to bat, and you're going to be wanting to own your own business or be a top official, a president, a CEO of a business in that trade. So learn what you can, work for someone else initially, and then either go out on your own or move up the ladder and own the company. But I find too much that kids go out there, students, people when I was a kid, go out there and try to make it in a year. And you're going to break your pick a few times. And the other thing, don't worry about failure. You cannot learn by having success, everything you do. You have to have failure to learn. And now I'm not going to do that again. And so don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. When you make a mistake or a poor choice, embrace it. Say, okay, I screwed up. It was a bad choice. And then go find out the time of day, the temperature, the alignment of the moons, everything about that error you made. Find out everything about that error and learn about it and educate yourself, and you will never, ever do that error again. And know how it even started, how you even got to that point of making that decision. And learn that, be a sponge, and you will be so successful as you go on, because you'll not only have the knowledge, but you'll be bringing people in that you don't mind. Say, make some mistakes. There's not a mistake you can't make that I can't fix, because trust me, I've been there and I made that mistake. So come in and ride as fast as you can and enjoy it. And so the bottom line is, go out and work for somebody, learn the business that you're interested in, soak it up like a sponge, and either go out on your own or climb the ladder within that business.
Great answer. Do you have an example of a failure you'd be willing to share with the audience?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much time we have. I went in and I spoke at a graduate business course. Done one in Gonzaga, one at Washington State University, and I walked in there with a little tiny plastic bag, and it was just a little tiny a little bag, like a baggie, and I walked in with a giant garbage bag that was full of paper, and I walked in with these two bags, and I says, I'm here to talk to you about my successes and my failures, and I showed him the successes, which was that little bag, and I threw it away, and I said, I'm here to talk to you about the failures. You're going to learn more about my failures than you ever will from my successes. And so we talked about those mistakes, that you made in business. So I don't want to go to detail all of them, but yeah, I mean, business that you make investments that you didn't do the proper due diligence. I noticed that when I was younger, I was constantly sticking square pegs in round holes, meaning I was forcing the deals. I was trying to push, anything I touch is going to be gold, or they'll come, I'll build it and they'll come. All these attitudes that just go, 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 go. Well, I can name a number of banks and a number of businesses in 2008 that had that attitude that are gone, and a number of during that recession, and a number of them are going to be gone, unfortunately, in the next year or two during these tough times. So you learn, to be conservative in your business. You learn how to calculate those risks much better over time, and so that's what I've learned is how to calculate the risks and don't constantly go beyond my little rules that I've set for myself to stay within the lines or stay within the boundaries.
Yeah, totally. You kind of touched on it too, but we also speak towards leadership. And to me, that's a different muscle. When I talk to my business owners or people, a lot of them get hard on themselves that they're not a good leader. But to me, that's like building a brand new muscle that you have to work towards and nurture and grow. So what have you kind of learned in your journey of leadership?
Leadership is something that you don't automatically have. It's something you learn. And what we find out is communication is huge. Is how do you not only communicate with your constituents who you work with, your business partners, you work with your colleagues or the lenders or whatever in your business. I've taught another class I spoke to, as I said, when you go to a bank, you got to learn how to speak bank. You don't go in, I'd like to have a loan for this, and he'll go, well, have you done a return on that investment? Do you know the sources and uses? Have you done a pro forma? Do you know your debt coverage ratio? Do you know your loan to value ratios? I mean, don't have them blow you out of the map. Come into it prepared and know all those terms and know how to speak banker's talk. Learn that. It's not something that you just know out of the gate. You don't really, you've taught that in college, but you don't understand the significance of all those different terms. But yes, I think leadership is something that can be taught, but it's more learned. And as you grow, and if you're hopefully that person that wants to give back, and I find that one of the greatest satisfactions I have in life now is bettering other people's lives, whether that be the time, talent, or treasure, whether that giving people time to sit down and talk with them, whether that go to a class and speak to it, whether that giving that talent to a community of people, whether that's saying I've experienced this before, I've learned this, I've gone through the school of hard knocks, I've made those mistakes, or whether it's the treasures, whether you can give back as much as you can to make other people's lives better. And that's what we're trying to do with students at WSU and with people within the community of Pullman.
Yeah, totally. And I think when you give back and you are in that place, it's just so fulfilling, and there's nothing else that really compares to that emotion.
It's not. And I've given to different things. And when I've given to a company, which is individuals or students, I did a housing gift to students that were not going to come to WSU, but they were so qualified for the not graduate school, but the honors school, so qualified for honor school. They were going to go to Stanford. But we were able to give them free housing, which tipped it over, was able to go to WSU. And they were one of our top. In fact, this young lady, I was almost in tears when she got a hold of me and thanked me so much for that housing scholarship. And she is one that has wrote I don't know the proper terminology for that. I don't know if it's dissertation or wrote a paper published when she had it published, and it was about prostate cancer. And she had entered that field and made some significant progress. And it was actually published in medical journals. And she's now working over in Boston or somewhere in an institute with prostate cancer. And I sit there and think about, and she called me one time and in tears almost, thanking me for that scholarship. And I think about where she would have been, because she said she might go back to the Philippines because she didn't have the money. And I sit there and think of those times, and it really makes me know why I'm here now. And it lets me know that I know my purpose in life right now, and it's to better other people's lives as much as I can.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that story. Wow. That's really, really special. Okay, I want to sprinkle a little more wisdom for the student who just got accepted. Actually, they're probably moving in or have moved into WSU. Advice you would pour into that freshman entering their college life.
I've heard the terrible statistic of up to 40% attrition in a freshman.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very challenging part of life. You're leaving mom and dad. You're out on your own. Alcohol, unfortunately, is available. There's a lot of new friends, a lot of new people, a lot of influences, good and bad. And I wish I could have the right answers for everybody. But the answer is we've got to solve that attrition problem. We've got to figure out how we can take that freshman year that is so difficult, and learning how to study, learning how to be responsible, learning how to be respectful, and learning how to have fun, and trying to get all that into a shell that qualifies you to advance to a sophomore is so difficult. So I don't have all the answers for the freshmen. I just said, write it out. We were all there. You're not going to make all the right choices, but embrace the poor ones you make and don't make them again.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't make any poor choices, I know you're lying.
Yeah.
So embrace those. You're going to make mistakes, but we all did. Just get through it and get through that first year. Take your general university requirements, meet the right people, make the right choices, and you are going to have one amazing ride at WSU for 4 or 6 years in my case, and have an amazing ride and enjoy it. So hopefully I wish them all the best, and I'll do what I can to support them.
Great answer. And before we hit the rapid fire questions and wrap up, is there any other WSU or just life thing you want to share before we dive into the final 3 questions?
Boy, to me, life is WSU.
Mm-hmm.
And, family is always there first. And, people have different religious fortitude, aptitude, but we love WSU, what they bring. We may agree with some of their directions. We may not agree with some of their directions. I'm not really a political person, whether you're going liberal or conservative, but I love what WSU provides to the student experience, and to see the quality of individuals that WSU brings out. I'm so impressed. So impressed. I mean, yourself is one. I see these young people come out, and they're aggressive. They go out and they try to reach out for their dreams, and they keep focused on it. And it's so impressive. Today I think about, again, all the mistakes I made, and thought, God, if I was as smart as some of these young people coming out of WSU now, how I could have avoided some of those pitfalls. But no, I'm my focus is on WSU, and my focus is on the community of Pullman, and then of course family.
Great. Awesome. Okay, Duane, time for the quick rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
One quick thing. I want to let people know, Dabco
Yes.
is one of our companies in Pullman. We provide quality housing for students. We want to let our team of professionals partner with you to bring a better average ROI. Now, I say that to the other property owners. We are now opening up our company, which we only manage our own properties. We're now going to open up to manage other people's properties. And we can say that we have a full service facility department. We have higher than average occupancy. Work to build your dream. I mean, we're bringing in some of the highest occupancies in Pullman in our product, and we'll work to constantly strive to push the envelope for your success. We think we get very high ROIs, return on our investments. We would like to provide that to other property owners within Pullman and Moscow as well. I know that was kind of a sales pitch thing, but we just kicked that out to where we're going to provide property management to and provide our success and our services to other property owners. So go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry. Rapid fire.
No, you're good. And as I asked earlier, basically, if I go buy a house in Pullman and I don't want to manage it, I can have Dabco do it.
Absolutely. We'd love to do it.
Perfect. No, thank you for sharing. And yes, I did almost forget to add that. So I'm glad you went there. Now to end it with the 3 fun questions, which are number 1, if we were to go have a drink in Pullman right now, where would we go?
At my age or your age?
I'll let you pick. You can answer twice. I'll give you 2.
Boy, I hate to really promote only one place in Pullman. There's so many great places. Gosh, if I was your age or if I was younger, it would be at Adams Mall at the Emporium.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great new facility there. It's where Mike's, some of you knew, or some of you knew it as Stubblefields. So that's where I'd probably go as a student. As a older adult in Pullman, there's a number of great places from Birch and Barley to South Fork, to go to down at Black Cypress or even Zeppo's. There's so many great places to go have a cocktail in.
Yeah, love it. Great answers. Okay, number 2. If you could only see one in-person football game this season, which one would it be?
It would be the Apple Cup because it's in Pullman this year. Yeah,
Yep.
I live for the Apple Cup and beating UW any chance we can. I have this trophy, a trophy back when a guy named Chuck Nelson missed a field goal, and WSU beat UW 21-20, and it was 1982, and the goalposts were torn down. They drug it. This is the last time they tore down the goalposts. Then they cemented them in or whatever. They made them bomb-proof, and so it tore them down. And these 2 goalposts of one side were hauled to the Coug and pushed through the windows, broken windows, through one window and out the other. And they sat there as everybody partied all night long in the Coug. And then me and a couple of guys, it snowed, right? Me and a couple of guys brought a pickup up, and we grabbed those goalposts. We pulled them out. Oh, no, we're taking them back. Well, we're taking them back up there. We've got to patch these windows. And we act like we were officials up there. Well, we put them in the back of the truck. 2 guys held on to these goalposts. They're dragging because they're dragging in the street. They're so long. And we drove them away from the Coug, and all these guys are running and chasing, sliding, falling down. So we took them up to my parents' house. I leaned them against the house 2 stories high. And I remember Dad waking up thinking the gutters fell because the gutters were white. And look, it was a white goalpost going straight down to the ground. He's like, our gutters fell off. Well, no, it was a goalpost. So we sawed them up into little 2-foot sections. And we were entrepreneurs. We're going to go sell these goalposts, which would have been a great thing. We could have made a lot of money, but we were too stupid. We didn't have the marketing thing out together. We had all the work together. We had the product. We just didn't have the marketing figured out. So I remember seeing a stack of goalposts many years later, these little chunks of goalposts in my dad's house. Well, I got the top end of the left side of which Chuck Nelson missed, and I put it in a trophy case, and I have that now as one of my trophies. So Apple Cup means a lot to me, and been at many of them.
I've never heard an Apple Cup story like that. That is one for the books for sure, Duane. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Last question. This one's tough. If you could describe your time at WSU in one word, what would it be?
Special.
Yeah.
Of all the things I've done in my life, time at WSU was probably, I'm not going to say one of the most special, but one of the most special.
Yeah. Man, I'm getting emotional. You're making me emotional, Duane. I agree.
It was a time of growth, a time of maturity, a time of respect for others, a time of support. And you go through so many dynamic situations as a young adult, and all the challenges you have as a young adult through relationships with others. Whether it be a girlfriend or a boy, whatever, you have different relationships. You're going through those emotional things, the stress of breakups, the stress of going, all the things going on, and you're trying to study. You're trying to, be an adult. You're trying to use your parents' money wisely at college. There's so many things going on. I don't know if I've had that much on my plate, let's say, as far as stress and things in front of me that I've ever had during that college year. But it was such a special time because I learned so much, and probably one of the biggest growth periods of my life, both emotionally, mentally, physically.
Yeah. Yep. Perfectly said. Thank you so much for your time today, for sharing your wisdom to so many different people. We covered a lot of topics, Duane. I just really appreciate all you're doing for WSU, for Pullman, and for the people listening today.
Thank you, Kelsey, and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us on the CougsFirst podcast. We hope you leave feeling inspired, entertained, and encouraged to support yet another awesome Cougar-owned business. If If you like what you heard, do us a huge favor and leave a review for the CougsFirst podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes, and please share this podcast with your fellow Cougs. And remember to thank CougsFirst for all of your products and services. But until the next episode, let's end it with a good old-fashioned Go Cougs!